Good morning, everybody. My name is Alyssa, and I'm one of the student ambassadors here at Otonabee College. Today, we're going to have another tea time with Trent Faculty session, but this time we're going to be having it with Dr. Barry Saville. Would you like to just introduce yourself and just talk about some of the courses you teach here at Trent?
Sure. Yes. I am Barry Saville, and I'm a professor in the forensic science department. And I teach introductory crime scene investigation and a fourth-year course called Biocrime and Bioterrorism. I'm also the director of the Master of Science in Forensic Science program here at Trent University, Canada's first Masters of Forensic Science. And in that course, I teach a graduate version of the Biocrime and Bioterrorism course. And what else would you like to know, Alyssa?
Well, how long have you been teaching at Trent?
I've been here since October 2006, so like
So very long
years,
time.
16 years, yeah.
So over your time here at the Trent University campus, what do you enjoy most about Trent?
The students,
The students?
full stop. When I had the opportunity, when I was a professor at another university, to come and give a guest lecture at Trent University, I gave a lecture in a fourth-year class, and I have a beautiful experience where I messed up. So I actually said something in one early slide in my presentation and contradicted it in a later slide. And one of the students asked how I could justify saying different things. And we followed up with the class and having a discussion about the nuances of this information. And it was a really positive experience. And I recall that at other universities I had been at, we just didn't have that kind of rapport. And here I was as a guest speaker, able to have that rapport. And ever since that point, I knew I needed to come to Trent. And I've really enjoyed my interaction with the students.
It's really nice, especially because like the student to faculty ratio is a lot smaller than other universities. So you really get that engagement piece.
You can, yes, exactly.
So after all your years here at Trent, what's one tip you would give to first year students?
I think that they should keep up on their assignments. I think that staying on top of what they're learning is perhaps even more important than doing, absolutely great on one assignment. To stay on top of their stuff so that at the end, you don't have to cram a whole bunch before the exam. So just staying on top of things would probably be my advice. It's not always something I could even follow myself, but it certainly is. It certainly is the best way to, or one of the better ways to limit your stress. And that's what first year is.
I could not agree more. I am in third year and I am still working on that.
Yeah.
So how would you want your current students to describe you to incoming students?
You mean from a teaching perspective?
As a teaching perspective, as a personal perspective, how would you want students to describe you?
I think an enthusiastic individual who's interested in a lot of things, and hopefully I'm approachable.
I think that's what most profs would want, to be approachable to students.
Yes.
Is there any non-professor related or non-academic project that you're currently working on or would like to work on in the future?
I want to build a greenhouse. So my research involves plants and disease-causing organisms. And I've always been interested in plants, not diseased ones, but non-diseased ones. And so I'm sort of toying with the idea of building my own personal greenhouse. However, when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking, wow, maybe I could use this to help education. So it's always sort of a back and forth kind of idea.
Do you have a timeline of when you would like to start that?
I'd like to start it during my sabbatical, but I'm not sure if I'm going to get a chance. That's going to happen in 2 years. So
Well, manifestation is the best key to success, as they say.
exactly.
Over your time, whether it be as a student or a professor here at Trent University or other universities, what is the best advice you have ever received?
Wow, that's a tough question.
I know I'm hitting them with the hard ones.
Um, as a professor.
As a professor, as a student, what's the best
Oh,
advice
okay.
you've just
Phew.
received?
Yeah. As a professor, the kind of advice you get is pretty specific, right? Like, write a better first paragraph in your grant applications. And, that seems like a very simple statement, but it sets the scene. So when you're doing assignment, that first paragraph sets the scene for everything else that the person marking your paper is going to think about. So having that first paragraph is important. But I think that some of the best advice I've actually gotten came for a time that I spent away from academia when I was in private sector. And I had a manager tell me once that so two different things were told me. And it's interesting how this might relate to everybody else. One that said, once you've made the sale, stop talking. And so how do we relate that to education and being a professor? Well, I think part of the thing to think about is to allow your audience time to think, right? Allow them to think about what you're saying, if it's a lecture or if it's a seminar or something like that, and then allow them to respond. So that, I think, is kind of an interesting aspect. Another thing that somebody told me in that context was try and push yourself out of your comfort zones occasionally, right? To do something that you're not comfortable with to sort of broaden your horizons. But I think of all the advice I ever got from anybody, that probably the most important advice I got was sort of an indirect piece of advice because it was from my father. When I was an undergrad and I had written my first exams in my major and I hadn't done well. And I wasn't up to my standards at all because, I come from high school, I was a straight A student, and my God, it was terrible not getting the same high marks. And I remember talking to my father, and he just asked very simple questions. He said, "So are you changing your major?" And I said, "No, that's not why I'm phoning, right? I'm upset." And he goes, "Well, if you're not changing your major, well, you better pull up your socks." And it was like, so the message was, think the bigger picture, right? You had this setback. Are you going to change your life? No. Pull up your socks. Think about that bigger picture. Move forward.
Dads always have the best advice, don't they?
Yeah, they do, don't they? Yeah.
They always know what to say to you to get you out of your little funk and to be like, okay, wait, let's really focus now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So is there any specific moment that you decided you want to be a professor? Like any situation that kind of influenced your decision?
That one's tough. I'm a very different kind of individual than a lot of our people out there and listening to this, perhaps. I knew I wanted a PhD when I was in high school. So I'm old. So when I was in high school, we had grade 12 and grade 13. And so in grade 12, I decided I wanted a PhD. And I remember even having an exit interview with the principal of the school because he was very good and we had a small school, and he interviewed all of the grade 13 students as they graduated. And I remember telling him I wanted to get a PhD in botany. And he looked at me as if I had three heads, right? Because he's saying, well, I thought, we wanted to go into medicine or into law. And I said, well, no, I wanted to do a doctorate in botany. And I had to explain to him what botany was, the study of plants. And so it was very interesting. Now, we could talk about the relationship to that in forensics at a different question, but that was the start. And I ended up actually fulfilling that goal and getting my PhD. But I had never considered what to do after. I hadn't considered what I was going to do after that. And so I continued on and I did what they call postdoctoral research at different positions. United States, and I'm back in Canada, Toronto. And then I left academia and I joined a private company called Applied Biosystems. And I worked there for 2 years. And that was a real eye-opener. It was very different. Some ways much more supportive than academia is. And other ways it was confining. And during that time, I remember I need to do academia. I've tried this other thing and it's good, but I need to do academia. So it was a lot of life experience before I got around to that decision about being a professor.
That just goes to say that, like, it really just, you got to wait until you know, don't rush your decision kind of thing.
That's right. And it's interesting because, I know open houses and things like that, I'll ask students what they want to do and they'll say, I don't know. And that's good. That's a real answer, right? I mean, that is true. So that if you don't know, you need to give yourself the opportunity to do things that you might decide later. So don't cut yourself off early, right? So keep your options open.
Hear that, students? It's okay to not know. In your opinion, what is the key to doing well in your undergrad?
Well, that becomes a little bit, I don't know if there's general statements we can make, right?
Mhm.
My earlier statement, stay on top of things, is critical, right? You've got to stay on top of things. One of the things that's not productive is to become so stressed that you can't concentrate. And so one thing to think about is looking after, and I know it, so this is going to sound a little bit like everybody's telling you to look after your mental health, but let's not even use that word. I mean, look after yourself so you realize that I stay on top of my schoolwork, get my homework done, do those assignments, get those things on time, and then take some time to get out and relax, right? And then come back to it. But then take some time to come out and rise. It's still life, right? It's still fun, right? So work, schedule, have fun.
Nice balance.
Yeah.
I think that's the best advice you can give, is just have balance in your life. Don't put too many eggs in one basket. You kind of gotta nicely even them out, so that way you're taking care of every section of your life, whether it be health-wise, personal-wise, and academia.
Yeah. And I think that we sometimes forget to look after ourselves, right? So
Yeah, students can be very much like tunnel vision, make sure we get to the end without looking at what we're doing to ourselves in the end.
yeah, exactly.
Well, I just have one more question before I let you go today.
Okay.
So, what is one thing you want your students to know about you, whether they be current students or future students? What is one thing that you want to leave them with?
Wow. I really am interested in a lot of things. I really am. So when they ask me like weird questions about very different things and I start rambling on about yeah, well, I've thought about this and I thought about that, it's because I'm interested in a lot of things. And so hopefully that means they'll talk to me and we can talk about anything they are interested in.
There you go, students. If you ever want to strike up a conversation, Dr. Barry Saville is the one to go to. Well, thank you so much for coming today and having this wonderful conversation with us.
Marvelous. Thank you.
Of course, I see we have a guest. Amy, did you have any questions for Dr. Saville before we go?
No, I just wanted to say that I'm in your introduction to crime scene investigation this semester, and you really are a fantastic lecturer. Like, you're very engaging. I never thought an hour lecture on hair could be as interesting as it was. So I just have to say I'm really enjoying your lectures, and you're definitely my favorite prof this semester.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for ending us off on a positive note there, Amy. I really appreciate that.
Yes, that was a nice positive note. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for your time today, Dr. Saville. I really appreciate it.
Okay, bye for now.